Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, guys. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Lads. MashaAllah, we have a full house today, alhamdulillah. I know a few brothers have been waiting for this event for a long time. Alhamdulillah, we have Sheikh Shaqur from Sabil this today. I'll introduce him, inshallah. Shaykh Shaqur Rehman is a senior advisor for the Islamic Council of Europe. He's completed a PGCE along with a master's in applied linguistics. He proceeded his secular studies with Islamic education beginning in Egypt between 1999 to 2001, which he further developed in Syria and Saudi Arabia while teaching English in various universities and institutions. During his Islamic studies, he managed to memorize the Holy Quran, mashaAllah, and obtain ijaza, authorization in recitation and various Islamic sciences, including theology and jurisprudence. He also contributes to Islamic organizations and has taught at various institutions and is currently the Islamic content coordinator for the Sabil Development Program, which he will most likely go through today as well, inshallah. Before we start, just a word from me. When we talk about, or when in khutbahs and talks, we talk about the ummah and elevating the ummah. And there's 4 steps to doing that. You know, our personal development, our development in our families, the development in our communities, and then development in the ummah. Everything we do in the ISoc is to develop you personally, through roots, through tajweed classes, Quran, etc. Now, the development of the family, marriage is the core of it. Marriage is the anchor of the family. And without a good marriage, or a marriage on strong foundations, Islamic foundations, then there is no foundation in the family. And without the family, then you cannot have a strong ummah. So I highly recommend that you guys focus on this talk, inshallah. Try and benefit as much as you can, and listen attentively and take notes. Barakallahu feekum. I will hand over to Sheikh now, inshallah.
Fast. It's tightest here. How do you get hold of tight here? Let's see how it works. I can take you this if you want.
Is the clicker as well?
Yes.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. Who wants to get married? Put your hands up. Yeah, only a few of you. It's very strange. You come to a marriage talk and you don't want to get married. Okay? Right, okay. So before I get into the detail of the subject, which many of you can't wait for, it's actually strange. This week, I was at QM on Tuesday. I was talking to Idris as we were walking down. And you're the second bunch that I'm speaking to this week. And in both universities, for the first time, this never happens. The brothers outnumber the sisters. It's never happened in the years that I've been going to universities and talking, and this has been good 15 plus years. And a marriage talk, and the brothers outnumber the sisters. It's very strange. I don't know what's going on in the water these days, but anyway, it's something new. Okay, so a very quick little background of what I do and why I am here, and why I do these sessions for university students and young people in general. I have 2 roles in my normal working week, okay? The first one that you see on your screen there is Sabil. Most of my week is taken up by Sabil, which is a holistic tarbiyah program to bring people back to the fitrah that Allah created us upon, okay? And the second thing that I do in my working week is picking up the pieces of marriages that are breaking down, okay? So I do this now only on a Monday. So my week starts where I hear all the horror and I'm dealing with that and picking up the pieces. And then the rest of the week, I am focusing on developing people such that they don't fall into those problems and those horrors as they go further into life, okay? So the first day of my week kind of sets me up, right, we need to make sure these things don't happen to people, and gives you an insight what's happening in our community, and therefore how to correct a lot of that through nurturing. Okay, so that's background on myself. So I've been doing this work in a formal setting for a good 10 odd years now. 10 odd years plus, okay? So these types of courses, in the Islamic Council, we develop detailed courses to mitigate problems that people have in their marriages, taking into consideration current trends in counseling, the mental health sphere, etc., weighing that up with the Islamic principles that we have, and taking some of what they promote, and relegating some of it because it opposes some of our Islamic values and principles. Right, so that's a bit of background about myself. Now, why am I here? What am I going to do today? Right, the reason why I am here, which you should have picked up from what I've said so far, is that I do not want our young people, our ummah of young people, to go through the problems that are occurring to our Muslim families right now. We are in the West, and because of the environment, we are facing very similar challenges to what the Western families, the non-Muslim Western families, are facing. So we need to remedy those problems. We are not facing it to the same level. Alhamdulillah, it's much less than what they're facing. Yet the trends show that we are falling into the same corrupted ways of life and problems that they're falling into. We're leaving our Islamic guidance and falling into the problems that they have. Okay, so why I'm here today is to mitigate those problems for all of you. Now, what that means is I can stand here today and tell you things you want to hear, make you happy, and let you leave. Okay? Or I can challenge the indoctrination that's been done to you and give you the Islamic principles to live by, which might upset you, but in the long run will give you that which is beneficial for the rest of your lives. Right, hands up if you want me to make you feel good today and walk away happy and not tell you what you actually need to know. Good, I'm glad no one's hands went up. Okay, so what I'm telling you now, sometimes I'm going to make you feel a bit awkward, challenge what your perceptions are, what your thoughts are. Sisters, are you paying attention? Yeah, I'm just preparing you, okay? So when I speak, I'm not speaking for myself. This is 10 years of experience, and every week I sit together with another about 9 mashayikh who are dealing with these marital problems in the Islamic Council on a weekly basis. We have a panel session where we discuss the most problematic cases that require discussion to come up with solutions and how to move forward. So all of them are part of the Islamic Council's judiciary, and we look at those cases. So what I'm going to give you today is a culmination of all of us together, which amounts to more than 100 years worth of experience. But more than that, it transcends all of the human boundaries that you can imagine, because the source of it all is divine, from Allah. Okay? So it is not from any man or any woman or from human beings. It transcends all boundaries and has no limits of time, place, person, or people, because it comes from the divine. Right, so let's understand that principle. Now, the second thing, let me take you into what we're going to cover today and start with point 1. Right, so these are the 5 things that we're going to talk about. We're going to get into the details of marriage and getting married, etc. And we're going to go through that in detail, hopefully giving you ample time to ask all of your questions. Have you set up that Menti thing?
Yeah.
You've set up the code?
Yeah, that's right.
Where's the QR code? Last slide. You've added it. Right, what I want to do is actually show them the QR code now. So if we can show them the QR code. I want you to be able to ask all of your questions. So, I want the QR code to go up now so that you see it, and whenever you feel like putting the question on there, just put it up. Okay? Put it up, don't wait till the end. So take the QR code now, and you might want to submit your questions at any point, so make sure you're able to do that. I do intend, as I did in QM earlier this week, to have a long QA. Normally we deal with the QAs anonymously like this, but normally people catch me after the talk as well. Like I did at QM, we had the brothers' questions, dealt with all the brothers' questions, then the brothers left, then we had a separate session for sisters. Some sisters want to ask private questions, they come up to the front, they ask their question, they go back. So I intend to do the same. So I'm going to try to get through the content quicker than normal, I suppose. Right, let's go back through these. And, right, deal with the first thing. Right. You came into the education system. You were 4 or 5 years old. You went into the educational system, and it's a free system. What were they trying to do to you? In the education system, were they trying to make you intelligent people? Is that what they were trying to do? Brothers, what do you think? No, they were trying to indoctrinate you. And they have been indoctrinating you since the moment you went into the system. And it hasn't stopped. And you're being bombarded with this indoctrination in every single form. All of the global social media right now is bombarding you with this stuff, and you have no way of repelling it except with certain values that you've adopted from Islam. But still, with your Islamic values, you are still going to seep some of that stuff up, you're going to soak it up, and you won't even realize that it's there. Okay, this happens to all of us. Happened to me, I went through the same system. Then you're going to educate yourself. The more Islamic knowledge and depth that you have, the more you will be able to repel and to assess that indoctrination that has been done to you. Right, when we look into the Western context that we're living in, and it's become a global context, we should understand that the family and morality when it comes to sexual activity is a cornerstone of the making or the breaking of civilization. Now, our first point, Allah gave that to us on a plate. Every one of us has probably read the beginning of Surah Al-Mu'minun. Okay? In Surah Al-Mu'minun, Allah said, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Right? These are the characteristics of success, both at an individual level and a societal level, a civilizational level. Then the things that Allah lists, one of the main components that He lists, or characteristics for civilizational success, as well as individual success, is وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ إِلَّا عَلَىٰ أَزْوَاجِهِمْ أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُمْ فَإِنَّهُمْ غَيْرُ مَلُومِينَ. Allah says that part of civilizational success is morality when it comes to sexual activity, which is limited to marriage. Without this, a civilization cannot flourish nor prosper. Then Shaitan is already telling you, but the West is not like this. Hang on. The only reason the West has made such progress, and it's in the decline right now, is because 60 years ago, they had good morality. Off the back of that, they had strong families. They had strong family structures. They had morals that they lived by. The family was core to their civilization. They have reaped the benefits of that, and now they are in decline because the morality of Western civilization has been corrupted. And Gaza, may Allah relieve our brothers and sisters from the torment that they're facing, Gaza has been proof of that. The mask that the West were wearing, with all the facade that came with it of empty slogans, has been revealed. The mask has been lifted. The corruption of Western civilization, the bankruptcy in its morality has been shown very clearly to the world to see. Right, so the Western civilization is in decline. Now, this is Islam. We know this from Islam. We don't have to do deep research and take years to do it. In the 1930s, an English philosopher by the name of J.D. Unwin, he did this research. He looked at 86 different civilizations, and he spent a lifetime analyzing them, trying to find out what the secret to success and failure of civilizations was. He wrote a summary of his research, which is a lifetime's worth of work, which is 600 pages. In that, he concluded that there's a direct correlation between the downfall of a civilization and sexual freedoms, being liberal in sexual activity. Whenever this happens, the civilization very soon, and he says within 3 generations, less than 100 years, that civilization drops until it's taken over. Okay? So this is the context that we're in. And therefore, we have been indoctrinated with anti-Islamic values from the moment we entered the education system, and what the media pumps in our heads and minds and ears, which we have no barriers, we have to process, since we could actually think and actually engage with any of this media. So this has been happening to us, whether we understand it or not. Right. So now, how do you deal with all of that? To effectively deal with it, you have to go through a tarbiyah program, a nurturing that takes away all of those barriers and actually brings you back to how Allah created you, the fitrah, the natural disposition. You have to do something. Now, what I do most of my week in Sabil is exactly that. A whole system to teach you how to think according to Islamic values, how to operate under Islamic values. If you can't think Islamically, you can't act Islamically, and you can't deal with situations Islamically. Right, so in a summary, what Sabil is doing, okay, it's not the only tarbiyah system, but it's one of them and the one that I'm involved in. In summary, it's this: think right, act right, no matter what comes your way. Okay? Bring you back to the fitrah that Allah created you with, which is your internal revelation. You take on board the external revelation, the Quran, the prophetic guidance, Islamic scholarship, and what jurisprudence has said for over 1400 years. You internalize that, and you know how to think, you know how to act, you know how to deal with all situations. Now, if you put that into a marriage context, if you are doing this in a marriage context, you're going to have one of the most successful marriages. Put it into a life context, then you will have the greatest success in your life. You will maximize your life if you can do that. Right. Is the system minimal, or do we have a greater goal? Our goal is actually to change the world. Because if you can do this to enough people, we do it to a group of people, they come on board, they go out and do that to another group of people, and so forth, until you hit mass change. You don't sit there and do nothing with that thinking and those skills that you adopt, but you get involved and change society. Is that not the prophetic method? That's what the Prophet ﷺ did with the companions. Then they went on and did that to the tabi'een, those who came after them. And we are reaping the rewards of their legacy, but yet we don't understand their legacy. You know, this system is so strong, the greatest system that was ever given to humanity, such that when Islam came, it took over the world. And probably you don't know this because we haven't lived it. Took over the world for 600 years. When Islam rose in the world, it took over the whole world for 600 years. It was the superpower for 600 years. Then it fell with the Mongols for 50 years. No other civilization in history has ever done this. Reaching a peak, falling, and then rising again to take over the world a second time in only 50 years. Islam did that, and then it reigned again for another 650 years. There's no civilization in humanity that has ever done that. This is the system that we're trying to replicate by bringing people back to the fitrah. Okay, this is our legacy, Islam. We haven't seen it being the superpower, but this is the history that no one wants you to know. Okay, right, so that's the beginning of it. I do encourage you to get involved in a tarbiyah system, because if you're not, you've been indoctrinated with Western values which contradict Islam, anti-Islam, and that's how you're going to end up living. There's no way you can get out of that until you undo it. And to do it is something strenuous, takes time and a lot of effort. But if you don't, you're not going to have a truly successful life. Okay, now getting into the marriage issues. Right, what we're going to do, we're going to go through 3 different scenarios before we get into the questions. This is the first one. Sisters are going to have a good laugh at the brothers in this one. And then brothers, you get your turn in the next scenario. Okay. You're going to have 2 minutes. Look over the scenario here. Identify, has the person done something right, wrong, and why? Off you go, 2 minutes. Okay, time's up. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. You see, you haven't learnt yet that those who've stopped speaking last get chosen to speak first. Okay, so what I normally do is I wait to see who's stopped talking last, and I choose them to start us off. So that brother right at the back who's still talking right there. Yep, you who's turned around and looked behind him. Yep, yallah. Right, so let's start with you. What's your name? Yeah. See, everyone understood what I was doing to you. Yeah? Right, what's your name?
Bashar.
Bashar, yeah? Brothers, why is it so funny? Yeah, it depends what he says next, whether it's going to be funny or not. Right, so the answer to this question, right, has he done anything wrong?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, right. So sisters, did you hear that? This brother thinks that he hasn't done anything wrong. Okay, we'll come back to it in a second. Right, let's see. Now, hands up, brothers, if you think there's nothing wrong with what he's done. Okay, so Bashar and you're all by yourselves, yeah? 2 brothers, right. Hands up if you think, no, he's already done something wrong. Oh, so many of you are sitting on the fence, right? But there's quite a few more here who thinks that he's done something wrong. Right, brothers, you need to quieten down now and listen. Right, here, you need to use your ears. You need to use your ears, okay? Use your ears very carefully. Right, so nice and quiet and listen carefully. Are you ready? Now listen. Right, sisters. Has he done anything wrong?
Yeah.
Right, hands up if he thinks he's done something wrong. Right, many hands went up. Has he embarrassed himself and her? Huh? Okay, many people are saying yes. Okay, right. Let's analyze the situation. He has now gone to the corridor and she's there and it's a public place. Does he know that she's interested in marriage? No. Where's he got this idea? Where does that idea live? In his mind. Okay. He hasn't confirmed it at all. And now he goes to her directly. He goes to her directly in the corridor, public, and he puts it to her. Say if she's not interested. Say if it's like absurd to her. Say if she finds him repugnant when it comes to his looks. What's going to happen now? What's going to happen, brothers? Okay. Just take a moment to think about that. Now, this direct approach, and he's come up with all these ideas in his head that this is the thing for him, and then she turns around and she turns him down and rejects him. And he's forced her to do this in a public place as well. How's he going to feel when that happens? Devastated. Yeah? Devastated. Right, so rejection is difficult anyway. He's done it in this way. And what does it say about him? What does it say about him? A brother who wants to get married, and he goes directly to the sister and he speaks to her like this. Sisters, what does it say about him and his character if he does this? Yep. You said something.
That's immature.
The immature. Any other characteristics you describe him with? Brothers, you need to listen carefully to the characteristics that I mentioned. This is how you will be perceived. Okay? Anything else? Yeah? No haya. Very good. He's got no haya. Right, what makes this even worse? What makes this even worse is the Prophet ﷺ said in the authentic hadith, Inna li kulli dinin khuluqan. Every religion has a distinguishing feature. Wa khuluq al-Islam al-haya. And the distinguishing feature of Islam is modesty. And he's thrown that out the window. Okay? This doesn't paint a good picture for you at all. If you look at it in a technical sense, you might say, hang on, technically, has he done something haram? Yeah, but Islam is not about technicality. There's a spirit to Islam which is haya. And this is not how Islamically marriages are done, nor is it any traditional method of getting married. You don't do this. The embarrassment that's involved, you don't know whether they're interested or not, direct like this. That's what you might have seen in the movies. That's the indoctrination that you've been given in Hollywood and Bollywood. And, be out there, be out in the forefront, go, take opportunities. That's not Islam like that. These things are sensitive. Approach them sensitively. Right, so how does one really go about something like this? What's the correct way to approach this? Which is the main crux and focus. Right. Brothers, give me an idea. What should he have done? Yep.
He phoned his sister and asked her to speak to him.
Calling his sister. Okay, right. Calling his sister, getting his sister to find out if she's interested. Yeah? Possibility. Brother back there, yep.
Ask her and all that stuff.
So he's going to go up to her and he's going to say to her, can I have your family's number, please? Maybe not. Okay? Still a bit too forward. Sisters, what do you think? How should he do it? MashaAllah, brothers are very excited, MashaAllah. Yallah, yes. Sisters, how should he approach this? Yallah, you two who are having a chat by yourselves, yep, go on. Give me an answer. How should he approach it? You're not sure? Well, how would you like to be approached for marriage? It's going to happen one day, inshallah. Would you like him to come to you and say, like the brother said, right, can I have your father's number? No, you wouldn't. That'd be embarrassing for her as well. So what's another way? Yep. How's he going to know if she does like him, she's interested? Right, we'll get there. We'll get there in a second. Right, so, what is the way he can find out, which won't be embarrassing, will get the job done, is modest, and is Islamic? What is the method to do so? Yep.
maybe you can ask like the system community, just maybe the video friends, just ask there. What?
Okay, there you go. Right. Someone who knows her, he has a friend in the ISoc. She has a friend in the ISoc. He gets his friend to ask her friend, and then they find out. A neutral party. A third party gets involved, finds out if there's any interest. If there's interest, then they can take it further, families, numbers, etc., and they can get families involved. If there's no interest, okay, she says, you know what, I wouldn't be interested. Thank you, but no thank you. It's not embarrassing. It's not a big thing. It's done, easy, finished. Carry on with life. Move on. Nice and Islamic. The Islamic method is to go through a neutral third party. Not direct communication, because here there's other sensitivities. Because you open the door to shaitan as well. Okay? You are two individuals, shaitan is the third. You start making these direct approaches, shaitan's not going to leave it at that. Many a time, especially in our modern context, it happens over social media directly. And unfortunately, at least 90% of the time when it starts out like that, all kinds of haram happens, and many times that doesn't even come to fruition in a marriage. Haram is done and then lives are ruined. That's the reality. Okay? So the direct approach is part of the promiscuous values that we've been indoctrinated with from the West. So it's not done like this. Why? Because there's so many negative consequences that can come from it. And from that is to open the door to promiscuous behavior. Now, you guys, you're in a really difficult situation because you're coming to university every day, right? And this is a melting pot for promiscuous behavior. That is what the West has created in universities. Why people come to university dressed up to what? To impress. This is what the West has indoctrinated all of us with, and specifically the Muslim woman. The colonial project that started way back in the history, the core foundation of it was to corrupt the Muslim woman, to take her out of her house, out of her hijab, make her tempt men to cause the demolition or the humiliation of the Muslim Ummah. And they did it. And that's how they took over the Muslim world. That's what happened. And that hasn't stopped because the colonial project hasn't stopped. The Zionist state is still there, a core focus of the colonial project. The remaining entity of that colonial project. Okay, so it's all happening. And this time of your life when you're in university, when hormones are high, desires are high, temptations are all there, is a huge problem. May Allah protect you all. Now, it's a testification of your iman that you're at this talk because you want to find a halal outlet for that desire that all of you have, that all human beings have, which is really good. And at the same time, you have to understand the pitfalls of it. Do things the Islamic way, okay? Knowing that if you don't, you're going to fall for some serious horrors. And I pick up those pieces every Monday. Okay? And we're going to go through some of those. Right. Your question that you asked, yeah? How does he do it the halal way? Have we answered it? Okay, good. So, he can approach but through a neutral third party. And that's what has to be done. Either family, a sister, and likewise the sister can do that from her side to his side, or a friend. And that's how it should start. Is there interest? Now, after there is interest, then you need to get other people involved. Direct communication between the two, is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's a bad thing, okay? Because, and you're going to find this out, when you get into that situation, you will not be able to control yourself because you've never experienced that before. Desires are high and you have no objectivity because you're emotionally compromised. You can't actually see sense and you don't know what this whole thing is actually about, okay, which you're going to discover. You need a lot of help to make the right decisions in this area, this very sensitive area in life. And if you don't get that advice from people who are senior, your family members, your parents, and senior members of the community, you're going to mess up possibly a huge part of your life, and especially for sisters, maybe the rest of your life. So be very careful. Okay, any questions so far? Good, right. So sisters had a good laugh at the brothers? Yeah, did you have a good laugh at them and his behavior? Right, brothers, your turn. Okay, right. Read the scenario. You have 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, brothers, you can relax a little bit. Okay, we'll start with the sisters first. Right, sisters. Any issues here? Yep. She shouldn't have spoken to him for so long. So when should she have got her parents involved?
Right.
Right at the start. Okay? Right at the start she should have. Okay, so let's go a bit further now. Why is she so certain that this is the guy that she has to marry and there can be no one else? Someone else. Yep.
I think she's emotionally connected to him. He was over a year, or older than a year.
Okay, right, so this is very dangerous. The way Allah created women, okay? I can say this because this is not from me, this is from Allah, okay? From Allah. Allah said, أَلَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ خَلَقَ وَهُوَ اللَّطِيفُ الْخَبِيرُ. Okay? Does he not know, and he created you, and he is the subtle, knows all subtleties. And he is the all-aware, al-khabir. Right, Allah created us, He knows our natures because He created them. He made us different, and everything that He made in us is to serve a particular purpose. The way Allah created women is that when women have positive interaction again and again with a man, they get attached to that man. And they are emotionally compromised. Right, so in the marriage process, Allah said the woman is not allowed to go through this process without a man securing for her benefits. The man that is best placed to actually look out for her benefits, which is her father. And then if there is no father in the picture, then he is replaced with someone who is going to take care of those benefits. A woman can never assess a man, especially the issues of marriage. It doesn't work. That's how Allah created it. Men can actually examine and ascertain whether this is good husband material or not. A woman can't do that. A woman is emotionally compromised as long as he presents himself well, etc. It doesn't work. Right. And let me get real. Okay, we have these cases come to us. Brothers, what's actually going on behind the scenes that she has not said yet? What's actually going on behind the scenes that she hasn't said? Yeah? Who's read between the lines here? Yeah, what's going on?
Her family hasn't actually said why they reject.
No. What's going on between her and Muhammad? Brother at the back. Only? You think they're only talking? How long's it been? Okay. This is the nature of shaitan. You can be the best and most pious worshipper of Allah. Okay? But shaitan has been doing this since the time of Adam alayhi salam. He made our father Adam alayhi salam slip. How are you going to be better than Adam alayhi salam? It's not going to happen. Okay, so in these cases, when sisters come and they say, this is the one, and no matter what my family says, and I can't see anything else, normally, there's a haram relationship that's been going on for a long time. They've probably done much more than having chats. Okay? I won't go into the details, but you get the picture. Okay? 99% of the time, when she starts to talk and she's in our office, and this is the case, and she's applying for a wali change. Is that the fire alarm? No? Good. Okay. Right, so 99% of the time, there's something going on that's haram. She comes in saying, my father, he's racist, and that's why he's cutting the opportunity of this marriage, and he can't be doing this, this is un-Islamic, this is the problem, my father is the problem. Okay, so let me push your buttons a little bit now. Okay? Right, all of you. Is the father being racist and it's not allowed, he's doing something haram? Hands up if you think the father's doing something haram. Hands up. And be honest, he said no to this guy because he's Somali. And his daughter's Bengali. Hands up if you think he's doing something haram. Yeah? Right. Right, hands down. Let me tell you something. Islamically, he has every right to do so. Islamically, he has every right to do so. Okay, in jurisprudence, there's an issue called al-kufr, yani suitability, compatibility in marriage. And one of the characteristics that falls under this component is ethnicity, tribe. All of this stuff falls under there. In fact, it's part of the legal framework. He's allowed to do that. And the practicality of it is very simple. Is marriage easy? Living with someone 24/7 and dealing with all the nuances that they have, and the issues between men and women in general, the differences between us, and then on top of that, the quirks that every human being has, is it easy? Right. It's not easy. It takes a lot of hard work. It can be the greatest bliss you ever taste in your life, even or despite the challenges and difficulties, yes. But it requires a lot of hard work. So why would you complicate that when you don't have to, with the differences exacerbated with differences in ethnicities? And then there's a ranking that's always been there. Tribal, countries that you come for, languages that you speak, status symbols and how they work. All of this is perfectly fine for a father to say, you know what, that's not going to work. Because the differences are so great. And especially if you are first generation from that country, which probably none of you guys are, then there are huge cultural differences. If you're second generation and you speak the home language, then there are still some major differences. If you are third generation, however, the nuance is that really, by third generation, you've lost the home language, or predominantly you've lost it. So therefore, the cultural baggage you have from the home country is very minimal. And basically, you're more British than anything else. So it's a less of a problem. But still, you as a third generation of that ethnicity are going to have to deal with the second or first generation in the parents. That complicates the marriage as well. Okay? So there's complications. Marriages are difficult anyway. Why do you want to go in making your life even more difficult? So the father has every right to say no to the proposal. And brothers, if the father says no to you, what do you do? Huh? Walk away. That brother said insist. Yeah. I'll pick on you in a minute, but there's a sister who wanted to ask a question. Yep. Yep.
Like if the farmer needs to that, then again forever. That's different. But like reviews here later with friends like yeah. So I don't understand my problem.
Right. Your father is where you came from. Your father, after Allah, is the authority in your life. This is Islam. This is Islam. Are you ever allowed to disobey your father? Ever? No. You're not allowed. Allah said very clearly, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. The authority of your parents is your father first and foremost. There is no way you can disobey him. And then some sister's going to say, but hang on, in marriage you can get married in the Hanafi madhab without your wali's permission. Okay, Shaitan's telling you all of that. But did you know? Did you know? And this you guys do not know, right? The moment you got married, he could come to the Islamic judge, someone like me, and say, my daughter got married without my permission, I want it annulled. And in the Hanafi madhab, I annulled that marriage. Done. Finished. Over. That moment. You guys don't know that. Your marriage is over. You carry on living with that person is zina, it's no longer marriage. That's the Hanafi madhab too. You want to put yourself through that? Never. Okay? So, do you think the Sharia that promotes worshipping Allah and looking after your parents and doing good would ever allow you to disobey your parents? Does that fit in the whole scheme of what Allah has sent down? Doesn't work. That's a complete mismatch. You do that, you're setting yourself up for misery because, sisters, the reality of life which you do not know, you haven't experienced. I deal with picking up the pieces. When everything turns pear-shaped, and in these scenarios, let me give you a real life one. Okay? Sister did this. Exact same scenario. She said, my father, he's being racist and the rest of it. And then she apologized. She actually phoned the guy after the meeting, which the father said no to the guy. And she phoned him. She apologized for the behavior of her father. She said to him it was racist, this, that, and the other. And long story short, she gets married to the guy. 15 years later, fast forward, 15 years later, she's been married to the guy for how long? 15 years. She has 3 children from him. Okay. Then she's doing some paperwork for him and she finds out his name is not actually his name. Okay. His age is not actually his age. He's 10 years older than what he said. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This is the tip of the iceberg. Right, then, on top of this, she was not even his first wife. She is the second wife. Right. It's not over. It's not over yet. Okay? He didn't even support her financially over these 15 years. She was the one working so much and supporting him. At certain times, it didn't make sense to her during the marriage. He would disappear, sometimes for months, because he was upset about something or other, and then he would come back, and she went through it. He's got another wife who also had about 3 or 4 kids, and he'd been playing them both like this. They'd both suffered. She met the other woman at some point later on when everything came out, and they had been going through the same difficulties with him, both of them. They became good friends. But she came to our office asking, so what do I do? He lied to me from the beginning and he kept this lie for 15 years. I have 3 children with him. I have broken ties with my family over this. I can't go anywhere. I'm stuck. What do I do? This is one. Give you another one. She disobeys her father, and she goes off and marries the guy, taking the Hanafi opinion. Okay? She marries the guy, on the day of the marriage, which should have rung red flags all over, the father of her husband phones her father as if he's gloating, yeah, my son just married your daughter.
Yeah, sure.
And the father hadn't said you can't marry him. He only said to her, delay the marriage for a little while, we'll sort it out later, wait for me to come back. She rushed it, it happened, she was cut off, she actually cut off from her family. Right, what happens? Turns out this guy is a drug addict. She goes back to his place. She doesn't even have a room with her husband in his place. She has a separate room with the other women and girls in the house. He's in another room. They have certain times together, that's it. He's still dealing in drugs. They have a very poor life. She's stuck. She goes through that for a long period of time until she can't handle it anymore. So what does she do, sisters? What does she do? She can't divorce. He's not going to divorce her. What is she going to do now? She's stuck. Misery, abuse, everything. She's stuck. Nowhere to go. What does she do? Go home. She picks up the phone to her dad. After blocking him and blocking all of her siblings, she picks up the phone and she says, Dad, I'm stuck. What does her dad do? He goes, picks her up, picks up all the pieces. At the end of the day, no matter what you think of your families, when everything is done and dusted, your families are the ones who are going to pick up the pieces. No one else in the world. Okay? And then he's the one who actually came to the council to get her out of this marriage because he's not going to divorce her. She's stuck in a nikah that she needs to get out of. So they now bring it to the Islamic Council as the Islamic judge in the issue, and then after the process, the marriage is brought to an end. Okay. Disobey your parents in the issue of marriage, 9 times out of 10, you're ending up for abuse, misery. It never turns out good. Okay? Don't do it. You will need your parents more in your lives after marriage, sisters, than you have ever needed them in your life. That's the reality. You don't know it. You will not be able to understand it until you're there. But by then it's too late. Take the advice. Okay. Right. Yes.
Was somewhat,
Right. Salam.
it's just like a micro, what do you about that this is like it is there is tea, but there's no sort of point like creating like a virtual activation to get to know each other. It's now so like that. I
Get to know each other. What does it mean in the Arabic? Lita'arafu. What does it mean? I can say that this is Imran Pakistani. This is Muhammad Somali. This is Abdullah Al-Arabi. It doesn't mean that necessarily that you're going to intermarry. It does happen. Can work. But I'm telling you, in the modern day, with all the difficulties in marriage, I'm putting it out there for you. You really want to complicate things? When you don't have to? Things are already complicated. Why do you want to complicate things even more? Okay? And as I said to you, right, there's a nuance. If you're third generation, then basically you're British anyway. You have similar values. Okay, between you two it's going to work. But is marriage about two people coming together? No, it's not. It's about two families coming together. And we're going to go into more depth in that in a second. Last question before we move on. At the back, yeah.
I have no issue with it.
If your parents are on board, great. Alhamdulillah. Okay, that's a completely different issue. Right? Because they're probably second generation, you're third generation. They see it as fine, they can get on with it. Yeah? So then, great. If your parents are on board, they see it as someone good, they see it can work, excellent. Go for it. Yeah? Ala barakatillah. Okay, right, let's move on because we need to get to the open Q&A. We're getting warmed up. Okay, this is the last one. Some of the nitty-gritty that opens the doors to a lot of your questions. Right, answer the questions at the bottom. You have 2 minutes again. Go through it and think about what's going to happen. Off you go. Okay, let's see what you've got. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Rather than the green top and the headband. Yallah, let's start with you. If you come dressed like that, Yakhi, you're going to get caught, isn't it? Yallah, what have you got?
If it's on the Prophet's perspective, then there are certain things that the Prophet said that we should grab. So he said that the woman is made for certain things, for example, her religion, her beauty, her status, etc. And then he said that the most important of them is the religion. So what I would suggest for the woman to do is first to determine whether his religion, so her religion is correct. So there's the pressure for that. Like if it is like a swap for both it's but that I watched what he said that if there's her religion is there, then you give her.
So how's he going to find that out in this meeting where her whole family is there, his whole family is there, they're sitting there and they've got like, say, half an hour to have a chat? Is he going to really learn about how religious she really is? In that half an hour where he's going to sit there and have a conversation? Is that what he's going to find out? Okay, unlikely. Great. You got to that point. Good. Right, sisters. What's going on? What's going to happen here? How should they behave? What should they ask? What are they going to learn? Any volunteers? Shall I just pick on someone? Yeah? Save someone by putting your hand up. Yallah. Anyone? Yallah. Okay, brothers, quieten down. Jazakumullah khaira. Yep. Go ahead. Right, have a normal conversation. Good. Right. What are they going to learn? You know, the other two things, I'm not really interested in. Yeah? I want to make sure you understand what's going to come out of this meeting. Because in your minds and hearts right now, you've got all these weird ideas of what you're going to find out in this meeting. In actuality, this meeting is like what other meetings? Someone said something. Interviews, job interviews. This is actually like a job interview. And on top of it all, each person, yani, the boy and the girl in the scenario, I know you think you're adults and the rest of it. Anyway, the boy and the girl in the scenario, yani, they're both emotionally compromised. The guy is in front of this pretty girl and he doesn't know what's going on inside him. Heart is racing, mouth is just and he doesn't know what's coming out of it. Okay, and the girl in the scenario, same thing's going on here, embarrassing, all these people, she doesn't know exactly what to do. Okay, neither of them wants rejection, but neither of them can think straight, talk straight, nothing else. Okay, that's what you're all going to be like. That's normal human behavior, nothing wrong with that. That's why who you marry shouldn't be left up to you. Because that's you. Okay, that's every single one of you, without exception. That's why the Sharia said it's not down to you by yourselves. You can't do it. You're incapable of doing it. And get used to that. The Western philosophy is that you are the individual and you are this, that, and the other, and you can make your own decisions in life and blah, 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 blah. And then they put you into the abyss of misery. Not a good idea. The Sharia says, no, you know what? You come from a family that's meant to look after you. The major things in your life, your family are stakeholders, because if things go wrong, they're going to pick up the pieces. They put so much effort into you. They thrive. They are happy with the successes that you've made in all of your life. They want success for you, not for any personal gain, but because of their sincere love towards you. Okay, so they are stakeholders in this whole affair. So if you don't do right by them, you're going to mess yourself up. Okay? Right, so what are you really going to find out in these marriage meetings? Okay, sisters are more emphatic about these meetings than anyone else. So let's go to them. There's only two things you're going to figure out. Right, sister over there, she said, have a normal conversation. So one of the things you're going to find out is there natural chemistry? You know, can you talk to this person? Do you click? That's one of the things that can come across, and that's what you're looking for in the marriage meeting. That's one. Brothers, what's the other thing? Yeah, be honest. Be honest. Okay, honesty is the best policy. Right, what else?
Delicious.
Deal breakers. Okay. Any others?
Maybe have the same family values.
Same family values. Anyone else? Attraction. One brother was courageous enough to say it. Okay. The rest were being all politically correct, and the rest of no. Right. These are the two things you get out of those marriage meetings, whether you have 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, whatever. Two things from marriage meetings. That's it. Okay. That's all it is. Do I find the person attractive? If you don't, brothers and sisters. Brothers, this is not too much of an issue for you. If she's not attractive, you're never going to go down that line. Sisters. Sisters,
Yes.
be very clear, okay? If you do not find the person attractive, physically attractive, do not marry them. Cases come to us where the sister didn't find the person attractive at all. She went through with the marriage. She comes back 10, 15 years later. She says, I can't stand him. I can't stand the sight of him. I agreed to the marriage for other things, and I realized I made a huge mistake, and I've been living in misery all of my life. And I can't do it anymore. And now she's got a couple of children with him as well. So sisters, be very careful. If you do not find the person attractive, yeah, if that box is not ticked, you never say yes. Okay? Have the courage never to say yes. Because if you do, remember that example. It's not one case. That's multiple cases. That's what happens. You'll be in the office asking to get out of a marriage, and by then, you've spent years in that marriage, maybe have kids, things become a lot more complicated. Don't do it. Okay. Right. So now, those are the only two things you find out in a marriage meeting. Everything else that you need to find out, the real religiosity of the person, the real character of the person, the real family values of the person, the background, and all of that is not done by any of you in this room. It's done by your families. Because those things require time, and you can't find them out directly from the people. You have to engage people who know them, who have done business with them, their neighbors, the local mosque and the imam and the people who pray there, etc. So that is background research that your families have to do. That's where all of that actually happens. That's due diligence that your family has to do to figure it out. And that person has to get on with your family. If they don't, it's not a good match. Okay, I've opened the door. I'm not going to go into too much more detail there. I'll have a look at this question. I might not answer it right now. Yes, go.
First meeting the quite arduous process of the fit.
Right, good. It's awkward, okay? It's more awkward for the sisters than it is for the brothers. Yeah? So there's an awkwardness between everybody. Even the parents, they don't know what they're getting into. They're trying to figure everyone out. That's what's going on. But all you want to do is have a normal conversation. Don't try to be someone you're not. Be natural. And just have a conversation. It's nothing more than a conversation. That's it. Nothing's happening in that moment. It's just a conversation to see, do you click? Is there a natural chemistry between the two and the families? Is there an alignment in values and views and visions and stuff like that? Normal conversation. Nothing bigger than that. Okay? And if you can't hold a normal conversation with these people, it's not the right thing for you. Move on. Okay, that said, I'm going to quickly run through a couple of things before I open it up to questions. Why is that going like that? Okay, I clicked in the wrong place. Right, it's not moving to the next slide. Can't even see the cursor now. Right, what have I done?
don't know. Well, you think it's quite fine.
Okay, good. Right.
Yeah.
Now, what I want you to take from this diagram, Islamically, these are the objectives of marriage. There's 4 objectives in marriage, or aims of marriage in Islam. Where do you fall in these 4? Okay, you guys think marriage is about you, isn't it? I've got news for you. Marriage is not about you.
Yeah.
It's done.
That should be a shock. Marriage is not about you, but you're the one getting married. Yeah, but it's not about you. The moment you make it about you is the moment you're going to cause detriment to your marriage and your life. Right. When marriage becomes individualistic, it's about the happiness of the person, you're going to end up, as one of the statistics of the West, in divorce. Okay, that's what individualism does. And looking at the self does. Marriages don't last. Okay? Easy come, easy go. Because I'm not happy. That's not marriage. Right, the marriage has to be anchored in the objective of Allah, pleasing Allah. Second objective in Islam about marriage, righteous children, righteous family. Still not about you. Chastity. That's about the morality of society. Still not about you. Number 4 is you. Finding that companionship. It's number 4, it's not number 1. So what does that do? Say if I'm not finding that happiness or companionship that I was looking for, but it's not there. But you know what? Higher priorities are being met. Allah is the focus of the family, of the marriage itself. Righteous children are good. They're moving that direction. Chastity is there. But things are a little bit difficult. The relationship isn't as great as it should be. You know what? The marriage is still in good shape because the objectives are very clear. Traditionally, even non-Muslims used to look at the family as more important than the relationship between the spouses. And if that was intact and the greater good for the family was still there, they would keep that marriage going. They would sacrifice. Because you know what? As a package, the marriage is in a good place. So you see, individualism means you can throw it away very quickly. That's not Islam. Marriage is the cornerstone of society and the ummah. It's about that. Okay? So you may have other thoughts, other ideas, but that's the way Allah wants us to look at marriage. Right? What do you need from a spouse? You might think you need all these other things, but really, Islamically, you know, the first 2 things, righteous, good character, yani, these are the norms across the board, both. Brothers and sisters, this is what you need. But the details of it, brothers, if you have a wife that has a loving nature, is content with little, and she comes from a family of lots of children, these are the 3 primary things the Prophet ﷺ told you to focus on. If you have these 3 things in a woman, that's a good wife. That's it. Nothing complicated, very simple. Because you know when you've come home fighting the world to look after your family, you want someone who's going to take care of you at home. After the stress of life, when you enter your house, you want someone who's going to give you that attention, give you that love that you need, look after you, take care of you, loving in nature. And content with little means you don't have to spend 24/7 working just to fund the expenses that she goes overboard in. So you're not there as a slave, but rather you're reaping the benefits because she has that attitude of contentment. Okay? And children are the second objective of marriage. So having big families is something the Prophet ﷺ said, تزوجوا الودود الولود فإني مكاثر بكم الأمم. The Prophet ﷺ wants to boast about our numbers يوم القيامة. These are the 3 things the Prophet ﷺ told you to look for. After religiosity and good character. So the sisters, what do you guys think you need in a husband? What's good husband material? What is it? Any ideas? Sisters are normally better than brothers. picking out these things? Yalla, any ideas? 3 things only. Right, righteousness and good character is a given. I'm talking about the other things. Just 3 of them. All you need in a husband, someone who's good husband material, 3 characteristics. That's all they have to have. After being generally religious and good. Yeah? Right, security, good. Yeah, what else? 2 other things. Finances, same as security. Anything else? Yalla, the sister there, yep. Yep, you. No idea? Yes, you have an idea, just say it. Right, that's similar to that. Right, anything else? Yes. Emotional intelligence is the new one. This is a buzzword, yeah? Right. Yeah, kind of, but not quite. Right, sisters, the reality that the Prophet ﷺ told us, okay, and the hadith are there, you can read them in your own time. If you have a husband who's responsible, it does not say financially stable, because money comes, money goes. Responsible. That's number 1. That means he's going to look after you no matter what. Okay? He's going to make sure you're taken care of no matter what. Number 2, he's kind. Whatever he has, he's going to be kind to you. And number 3, he's generous. With whatever he has, whether it's lots or little, he's generous to you. You have these 3 characteristics in a husband, you have the world and everything in it. That's all you need. Go beyond that, you're asking for trouble. Normally, women start looking for who's that adventurous, supposedly courageous person who's out there doing all this, that, and the other, and then they get duped because that was just a fake image on social media, and he was nothing like this. Okay? These 3 things, if you have them, that's good husband material. Okay. Right, brothers, what did you have to have in a wife? What were the 3 things? You've forgotten them already, yeah? Yeah, that was a given. Religiosity and chastity are givens on both sides, yeah? What were they?
That's all.
Huh? Content with little. What else? Loving character. Very key. Prophet ﷺ said it in so many ahadith. Al-Wadud, Al-Walud. Yeah, all the time the Prophet ﷺ mentions this character. Look for it. Yeah, and right, lots of children. Ability to have lots of children. How are you going to figure that out? Okay? She's not married yet. Right, you look at her mother, how many children she had. Her aunties from her mother's side, how many children she had. That gives you a good indication. And one last advice, brothers. You're looking for someone who's going to look after you. If she is the princess of the family, she's the last one. Yeah? Unless you're very rich, yeah, then that is someone to think twice about. Because she's not used to looking after her siblings. They all looked after her. So she's going to have more or greater expectations than someone who was higher up in the hierarchy of the siblings who had to take care of them. Just something for you to put in mind. Okay? Not a be or not to be, but if you have more money, you can consider someone like that easier. If you are not that rich and well off, nor is that a norm for you, then something to think about when you're going through the process. Right. Now, I've gone through the main things that you actually need. I'll leave that on there. Remember, this last point that I'm going to finish with. Your life is not your marriage. Life doesn't begin or end with marriage. Marriage is part of your life. Your life in Islam is much bigger than that. It's about your relationship with Allah. If that's not on point, if that's not moving in the right direction, then everything that comes after it is going to be messed up. Okay? Whether prior to marriage, in marriage, after marriage, the main thing and concern in your life should be Allah, His Messenger, Islam. If it's not, then you've anchored your life to something small, something insignificant. So, if you do that to yourself, any little disturbance in that thing in your life is going to break you. Don't be that small, insignificant person. Because Allah gave you Islam, which is the anchor for us to make us great people. Don't belittle yourself by making your life about something other than that. Okay, with that, I'm going to stop and open it up for all the different questions we have. Idris, you have the mentee stuff, and I will give priority to any questions that are coming from the floor. So anyone want to start us off on something and ask directly? Yep.
When you're in a room with very family,
Yep.
how can you trust that the person that parent or family present is somebody who should be right?
Yeah, we answered that question already. Remember, this is a presentation. This is a presentation. This is just to figure out, can you talk to this person? Can you hold a conversation? Is there natural chemistry? This is not the real person. This is not the real person. Understand that. Yeah, everyone should understand. When you go into a marriage meeting and you're having those conversations, you should know this is not the real person behind any, I'm going to say it as it is, behind the mask. It's a mask. All of us, you know, when we go into school, yeah, we're indoctrinated and we learn how to mask our defects, which are socially unacceptable. That's part of the indoctrination or making you socially acceptable that comes through schooling. Okay, when you were at primary school, you didn't behave like that. You didn't care. You were who you were. Okay? When you were at beginning of secondary, you continued that. Then you started to learn, you know what, that's not acceptable. That I need to change and modify. That I need to hide. And you learn to mask those things. But deep down, you're still that person. So what I always say to people, you want to find out who that person was? Find out what they were like at the end of primary, beginning of secondary, and what they got up to and who their friends were. Then you'll know who the person really is. Okay? And that's what works. Okay? Understand, when you go into a marriage meeting, these are all presentations. That's not the real people that you're dealing with. That has to be done behind the scenes through interactions with people who have known them for a long period of time. 10 plus years. Okay? Right. Sisters, anything from you? Yeah?
When you mentioned that Allah about the due diligence of finding out that person is relying on your family, if an individual doesn't have a strong family system, how would they navigate that?
Good. This is the common question that all sisters ask. Okay? Yeah, nothing new here. Right. Converts normally ask this question. They don't have family. They have non-Muslim family. How are they going to get involved? Someone who doesn't have that family who's going to get involved, because family dynamics are sometimes different and difficult. Right, if you can't get your family involved, they're not going to play the role and they're not going to do it properly, then you need to get someone else involved on your behalf who is 50 plus. Okay? I'm saying it very clearly to you, 50 plus. Why? Because this sensitive issue requires not only Islamic knowledge, but deep life experience. Until you're around 50, you're not going to have it. Until you're about 50, you don't know what you're talking about. Really, you don't. Someone who's experiencing these types of issues, because these are really sensitive issues. They make or break life. They cause great joy or bliss, or the complete opposite. Enormous misery. Okay, so you need someone who's 50 plus, been married for a long time, has children who are adults or thereabouts, deals with these types of issues, has helped people sort out messes in these issues, someone like that. If you can't have your own family doing it, then senior people in the community that can help you in this need to be on board. Okay? If you can't have someone's husband helping out in this and dealing with it, then at least a sister who's 50 plus, had children, adults, children, etc., at least have her on board helping you through the process and making the decisions. And if you're going to have them helping, there's no point of them being on board if you're not going to listen to them. Okay? The whole point of them being on board is they give you advice, take it. If you don't, then why are they involved? Okay? Then it's pointless. Okay. The brother there in the blue.
Assalamu
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
alaikum.
Yalla, quick.
Yes, of course. I grew up in Turkey. I've also lived in South Korea. I've been exposed to different ends of religion, Hanafi and so forth. And I've come to realize that religion is at times, if not a lot of times, used as a tool for corruption. Now, one of the most prominent things is attraction for a man. And a man can try to use religion as a means of attain something, in a sense. And I've seen this specifically in Turkey, I'll say. Well, not in Turkey, but from my experiences, where cultural values which are not originally from Islam, cultural values, are integrated into Islam by individuals.
But what's your question? Get to the question.
How do we avoid that? How do we know when somebody comes to us, and example here, tells us about these values? How do we determine if there is some sort of cultural influence into us throughout the hundreds of years of cultures in the world?
Right. What you're saying is based upon a premise that culture is bad. That in itself is a problem. Right. Allah says in Surah Al-Ra'd, that you can go into, beginning of Surah Al-Ra'd, okay? Allah says, فَأَمَّا مَا يَنْفَعُ النَّاسِ فَيَمْكُثُ فِي الْأَرْضِ. As for that which benefits mankind, Allah makes it remain in the earth. Culture is not bad. Culture has stood the test of time. The only reason traditions and those values have stood the test of time is because they bring benefit, so Allah allowed them to remain. That which doesn't bring benefit, there's so many cultures and civilizations disappeared, there's no remnants of them because they weren't beneficial. Right, so culture in itself is not bad. Every one of us has culture. Culture is actually embedded in language. Depending on the language that you speak, you have certain cultural norms. If you speak multiple languages, then you have all of those different cultures embedded in you to different degrees, depending on your proficiency in the language. That's not a problem. Right. As long as it doesn't contradict Islamic principles, then those cultural things are perfectly fine and they become part of your Islamic makeup. The fuqaha, the jurists, they have a principle which says al-'adatu muhakkama. What is known by custom, then it must be applied and adhered to, as long as it doesn't contradict Islamic values and principles. Right, so the Sharia adopts and allows customary norms. So that's not a problem. Now, anyone can use anything for their own intents. And some people out there are just evil. Okay, some people are evil. That's inhumanity. You see that in Gaza, you see that in the Zionist entity, you see that in the world leaders, everything. Some people are just evil. We see that play out. Okay, you don't want to marry an evil person. But religion, understanding your religion, and Hanafi is not different in religion, it's just a juristic view. Okay, that is part and parcel of Islamic jurisprudence. So these are not big major differences. But the person you marry, the closer they are to your values and the way you practice Islam, the easier the marriage actually will be. It uncomplicates things that don't need to be complicated. So that's all that you need to look for. So someone who's similar in the way they look at things, the way they perceive things, just makes getting on with them easier. If you were to live 24/7 with a very close friend of yours, 24/7, after a week you might want to kill them. Yeah, that's a friend. Look at the miracle of marriage. You live 24/7 with this person and your life, and you go through the ups and downs and challenges of life, and you stay together. This is a miracle from the miracles of Allah. Because you couldn't even do that with a friend. But marriage, because it's bigger than you. Okay, we had from the brothers, anything from the sisters, from the floor? No? Okay, right. Let's take something from the mentee.
Shall I say?
Yep, go on.
So we've got a question. If I am young and still don't have a stable job and income, but still want to get married early, what should I do? And how should I talk to my parents about it?
Okay, sounds like one of the brothers. Okay. Your sister wouldn't say that because she doesn't have to take the burden of responsibility when it comes to financing the marriage and all of that kind of stuff. That's the man's role. Islam defined roles very clearly for men and women. Everyone has to play their role in life for civilization to function and for civilization to flourish. Right, this has always been the case for every human civilization until the last 60 or 70 years. Men have a particular role to play in civilization, and women have a particular role. It was never the same. Until we came to the last 60, 70 years, where this experiment started, where they're experimenting with an egalitarian society or civilization, or they call it such. What has this led to? You look at the after effects of it, the consequences of it is the breakdown of the family, the breakdown of society, the breakdown of morality, the increase in every type of evil. Okay. Completely different to the rest of human civilizations. Okay. So Islam is no different. It said, women, you have a certain role because Allah created you in a certain way with certain expertise and skills. So this thing is actually really good for you because you've been created for it. So if you play that role in society, society is going to be really good. If you don't, however, you're going to first oppress yourself, and part of that oppression will be that you will not find fulfillment in that thing, although you were told you will. And then you will cause the breakdown of the family and the breakdown of society. And if men don't live up to their responsibilities, then they're going to do likewise to the whole of society. Okay, so each one has a role to play, very distinct. The way that you've been created is to be able to deal with that role. And the role of the man is to provide, to care, to protect, to provide that stability. Okay? Now, if you don't have a stable job yet, and you're trying to have that conversation with your parents, and they're not on board yet, you need to prove that you are responsible to your parents. You prove that you are responsible to your parents, they'll start thinking about marriage for you straight away. Okay? That means putting every effort in to bring in money. Not being frivolous with money. Brothers, and he's spending 30 quid, 40 quid, 50 quid, 100 quid on a meal. That's very irresponsible. Especially when you look at the Muslims suffering everywhere in the world, and then the extravagance, this kind of indulgence. That doesn't show responsibility with money. Responsible with money is using money effectively, knowing that you have a future that you have to provide for. When your parents see that, you know what, he deals with people, he deals with challenges, he deals with finances, he's ready to get married. Prove yourself. If you can't prove yourself to your own parents, how are you going to prove yourself to the father of some woman? It's not going to happen. Prove yourself. That makes you a man. Otherwise, what are you? You're a boy. Okay? Men get married, not boys. Okay, so prove yourself as a man, and then when you stand in front of a father who's now thinking, can I hand over my daughter to this person because he's responsible? The answer in his head will come out, yes, because I see he's a responsible man. So put yourself in that scenario. If you don't fit that bill there, then you're not actually ready. You're not actually ready. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ مِنْكُمُ الْبَاءَ. Al-ba'a means that responsible nature, and you're doing active things to show that you're responsible. And you bring in that money. Yes, there has to be an amount of money that you bring in because you have to support a family. kids at 12 years old, in the West, were working, bringing in money, sustaining families. In those times, they used to marry their kids off, 12, 14, whatever it was. In Gaza, kids were doing that. And that's why they got married very early. Likewise, 14, 15, 16, they were getting married. Because these kids had to grow up very fast because life is tough. But now we're pampered. And because of that pampering, we grow up very slow. Okay? Come to Sabil, we'll toughen you up. Okay? Yalla. Yes. Yep.
Sheikh, how important is the family for the values that education itself is something that it's not for ancient them?
Okay, it has an impact, right. So the question was, how important is the religiosity of the family? Okay, the person who's proposing might be very religious or similar to you or greater than you, and the norm for brothers and sisters is different. So men will marry women who are similar to them in terms of status markers, and religiosity is a status marker, like wealth, like education level, etc. Men will marry women of the same or lower. That's a norm. Women will marry men who have higher status markers than them. That's a norm throughout human history. That's how it is. And that works. If a man marries a woman who has higher status markers than him, normally it doesn't work. Because she sees him as lower than her. And therefore, she won't be inclined to let him lead, nor will she feel fulfilled because her husband doesn't hit the mark, the expectations. Okay? So that's a norm. Throughout humanity, never changed. And it's still the same. This is how life works. Now, religiosity. The family is not that religious, but the person is. If you're going to live with that family, as long as they're accepting of those norms, that religious ethos that you want to live by, and that's an agreed thing, you're going to be allowed to live like that, and they're not going to impose their ways on you which contradict that religiosity, then it works fine. All of us come from families which are not exactly like us when it comes to religious practice, etc. Yeah? There's the few that the religiosity is both the same, etc. But normally, there are variances. As long as you're allowed to live that religiosity that you hold and value, then it's not too much of a problem. And even less of a problem if you're not actually going to live with the in-laws. Okay? And this is an issue that I'll wait to be asked about it. Okay? So I opened it up there, but I haven't actually gone into it in depth. Yep.
But due to the act of marriage, there was difficulty.
Are you married yet? Are you married?
So,
Right. In Islam, you're either married or you're not. It's very binary. I know our current society doesn't like binaries, but Allah created in binaries. Okay? So, let me ask the question again. Are you married or not? You're not married. Khalas, yani. This is the marriage primer. Right. I will send you out through Idris the course about marriage or post-marriage. Yeah, I'll send that out. If you're interested in that stuff, that's there. Let's keep it to pre-marriage. Yep. Yep. Alaikum salam.
My question is about what in the process do you bring them back?
Again?
At what point in the process do you bring them back?
Talk about mahar.
Yes.
Okay, that's when the families have looked at everything, they've met each other, and they've decided, you know what, this is a good proposal, now let's get into the details. Okay, that's when mahar gets discussed. And Bengalis, who's Bengali here? You guys, sometimes we have to take you into the room and say, you cannot ask for that amount. You guys go overboard. Okay? Let me say it very clearly. A decent, acceptable mahar is between someone who's never been married before, sisters, someone who's never been married before, and a sister who's educated, degree, etc., and maybe even she works. The mahar amount should be something between 1,000 and 2,000, 2,500. That's it. He's not buying you. It's a gift. Nothing more. Don't make things difficult. Okay? What is a problem? Bengali culture, what do? 10 grand and then 20 grand in gold and I don't know what else. Okay? That's a ridiculous amount. Okay? That makes marriage very difficult. Don't do it. Okay? Sisters, don't do it. Okay? A mahar between 1,000, 2,500, somewhere between there at most. That's enough. Okay, sisters, anything? Okay, is there any questions there that look like they're coming from the sisters?
Yeah, I feel actually.
If you find something, we'll take that brother's question while you find one. Yeah.
Cool. So for now, I'm interested. So what is Islam like? With like us living in-laws.
All right, living with in-laws. Now, it was the norm, okay, in many cultures, and let me give you the nuanced answer. There's no this way or that way, Islamically, okay? Some Arab cultures even do so. The Yemeni culture, they do so. Other Arab cultures, it's looked as a no-no. Asian culture says yes, you start off married life like that, and then you move out as time goes on, etc. So, there are nuances, cultural nuances in this issue and how people look at it. Islamically, both are fine. When you look at the issue, if you're accepting of this, it means marriages can take place earlier. Yeah, if you're going to be able to live with in-laws, the marriage can take place earlier because you don't have to take on all of that burden and responsibility. It's cheaper. It's easier. So you get married earlier. But there are always pros and cons. Yeah, and families are not as clued up in keeping things together as they were maybe 50 years ago. Yeah, 50 years ago, people were looking at making sure the marriage worked and was successful no matter what. Now, people get upset and throw everything out over a whim. So people have changed. Cultures have changed. Human beings are not like they used to be. Families are not like what they used to be. So there are complications in it. Norm for Asian cultures is you start off married life in the in-laws, with the in-laws, etc. for the sisters. And then you move out gradually. And that's something that happens to everybody. If you demand that you live separately from in-laws, it means that your choices are more limited in who you're going to marry, because that person has to have saved up a greater amount of wealth, have higher standing in terms of wealth, etc. And therefore, choice is more limited, and therefore, you will most likely get married later than earlier. So, there's pros and cons to everything, and it's up to you. Okay? You make your own choice. Okay.
There is one that seems quite obvious from the sisters. The question essentially, it's quite a few of them. What to do when I don't want to have kids?
Right. Don't want to have kids.
Or can't have kids.
Ever. Right. Don't want to have kids. Ever is against what the Sharia advocates. Don't want to ever have kids. Right. That's not good for you either. Okay. The most fulfilling thing for a woman, okay, is to have her own children and nurture them, and there's nothing like that in the world for a woman. Okay, so this is part of your makeup as a woman. This is the way Allah created you. You might not realize that, but when you experience it, that will be you. Now, not wanting to have kids for a certain period of time, that's not a problem as long as you agree with that. Agree that with your husband going into the marriage. Temporary pause on that, that's not a problem. You can do that as long as you both agree to that. But to relegate it, to say that no children ever, that's haram, you're not allowed to do that. Then you can't get married. Okay, because that's one of the core objectives to marriage. So you can't undermine the purpose of marriage with such a stipulation. Now, someone who can't have children, someone who is infertile, a man or a woman, okay, can't have children, it's still recommended for them to get married. Yet they can't hide the fact that they know they're infertile or can't have children. So you still get married because that companionship, the development that you get in the institution of marriage, you can't get anywhere else. So it doesn't mean that you don't get married, but you're upfront with that issue because you know about it. Many a time you won't know. How are you going to know that you can't have children? Okay, until you're in that scenario. Right, so you may never know, and that might come out later. As long as you didn't hide it while knowing, it's not a problem. Okay, so that generally is the detail of that topic. Right, one from the brothers, yep.
Sort of times.
Wa alaikum salam.
The South and so
Perfectly fine. To marry within your family is perfectly fine. There's no problems with it. Western norms, and I remember one of the mashaikh actually, long time ago, he grew up in a very white area. Okay? So for him, his parents said to him, they were advocating that he marries his cousin. And for him, because of the Western baggage that he had grown up around, so he had adopted and internalized, the idea of marrying his cousin was revolting. It's like incest, because that's how they view things. But Islamically, that's perfectly fine. Your cousin. Your cousin is not your mahram. Your cousin is foreign to you when it comes to the issues of hijab and everything else. So marrying from your cousins is perfectly fine and is a norm. Okay, in all Islamic societies. And if you think about it, in the past, and why your parents push this narrative, especially if you're Asian, is because, you know, when you're marrying someone, it's a big question mark. You don't really know who they are. If you're marrying from within the tribe, the extended family, etc., you know exactly who those people are. You know exactly what their values are. You know how they behave, everything about them. You know the skeletons in their closet too. So you know exactly what you're getting. When you go outside of that, and this is your parents' thinking, when you go outside of that, it's a Pandora's box. Anything could be inside. And there's only a certain amount you can find out about people. It's not like you'll find out everything. So from your parents' perspective, it's the safer option. Especially if they're first generation, that's the way they think. Right, there's pros and cons with everything. There's pros and cons with everything. So not always those marriages turn out to be the most fruitful, but there's a good, solid reasoning behind it. Yeah, and I hope I've given you a bit of insight about it. Right, pick out some sisters' questions because loads of brothers want to ask up front. I'll do one next. Yeah, okay, yallah. That brother there in the blue top, yeah.
thank you.
Yep, you. Yep. No, the one in front of you. Yep. Well, yeah.
So that's the question with Watford. Also, the argument to dispute around what you told the private family, but to hear you like close to this fight on that probably income like this.
Yeah, but that comes from which side? Mum's side or dad's side? No. Which side? Dad's. Yeah, cousins from your dad's side, genetic issues are more likely from that side. Mum's side, less. Okay, so do the research. That's possible. But Islamically, is it halal or haram? You can do the genetic checks and all that kind of business, and you can do the test that you need to do. It's allowed. It has been a cultural norm, has been an Islamic norm, so it can't be completely like it's made out to be. Okay? And there are many cousins who have married and they have perfectly fine children, no genetic problems whatsoever. In some cases there are. So take it into consideration, but don't rule it out completely, yeah? Okay, one from the sisters.
Yeah.
Any? Okay, we'll take it from the mentee.
So,
Wait.
hide it here. 1 second. Okay. What are signs that a man is responsible, especially if he is either the youngest child, only child, or has sisters, etc.?
Okay, sisters, you'll never be able to figure that out. Okay? You can't. It's not your job. It's not your role. You don't think like men. Alhamdulillah. Okay, that would be a nightmare. Right. So, if you understand, the Sharia said your father is the wali, and you can't get married without your father's consent. It's for this purpose. Men can check out men. Men understand men. They can make those decisions about men. Women cannot. Okay, if you try to go down that route there, you're going to make the wrong decisions. You're not going to figure it out, and then you're going to end up with something that you didn't want. Don't do it. Okay? Men understand men. Men figure out if a man is responsible or not. And your father, if you think about it, he knows what it means to be a husband, a father. He knows what it is to fulfill that role. That's why he's been put in that position. He's looking out for your interests. That's what he's meant to do. If it can't be your father who does that, then it needs to be a senior man to do it. If you can't get a senior man in the community to do it, then a senior sister, 50 plus, etc., life experience, she helps you figure that out. Okay, but that is because you can't get someone appropriate, so you're getting something closest to the ideal that you need. Okay, so you could never do it. Okay, just understand that. It's a limitation that Allah has put in you, just like you can't fly. It's not your nature. Okay? Right. Some people have an aversion if I say, right, you're not able to do that because you're a woman. No, but you can't fly either because you're a human being. It's the way Allah created you, with limitations. You can't see through walls, can you? No. Right? Neither could Superman, actually. Yeah? Right. Yalla.
There's two really big questions on the Mentimeter.
Yalla, go on then.
Okay, so one is...
You think they're really good, yeah?
I think they're really good.
Now we're analysing what you think is really good.
Okay.
You set yourself up.
It's a majority. It's a majority.
Go on. A majority question doesn't necessarily mean it's good. Yalla, go on.
So there's a question that applies for both sides. How do you know if you are legitimate, ready for marriage, emotionally, spiritually, etc.?
Right. This question is because of your Western indoctrination. The reason why you have this question is because of the Western paradigm that you've been indoctrinated with. Let me show you why. Okay. Look at the whole of the Quran, look at the whole of the prophetic guidance, look at all Islamic values, look at all jurisprudence. Do they ever set an age on marriage? No. There's no age thing there at all in marriage. The Prophet ﷺ said, Ya ma'shar al-shabab. He addressed young people. He said, oh young people, man istata'a minkum al-ba'a falyatazawwaj. He said, as soon as you are able, get married. Both to men and women. He didn't say, you have to reach this spiritual level, you have to reach this level. Sisters, they tell you have to find yourself, isn't it? You have to discover who you really are. MashaAllah, when are you going to figure that out? When you're 50, 60? And then you're going to change the next day, by the way. It's not going to happen. Okay, this is the Western paradigm. And you're all living by it. And you didn't even realize. The Sharia said, you know what? As soon as you're able, get married. Because you're in an environment of temptation. Just imagine the Prophet ﷺ saying this during the time of the Sahaba, the greatest, purest civilization that the world has ever known. What about us then? Okay, you're not more in need of marriage than they were. Temptations are more in your face 24/7 than they ever were in history, in human history, ever. Okay? 2 clicks and you've hit pornography. Even if you didn't want it, it's there in your face. That's the current stats. It's probably 1 click now. Yeah, it's in your face. Even though you don't go for it and you don't want it, they pump it through the system because that's the way they want to corrupt you. Okay, so in that environment, how can you not get married as quickly, as soon as possible? Islamically, that can't make sense. Right, what did the Sharia say? Right, the Sharia said, when you are able to get married, you have the responsibility, you can take care of that responsibility, do it. If that means, yani with the backing of your parents and they help you out, great. If that means you have to do it on your own 2 feet because you don't have that backing or you don't have your parents able to help you in that, that's what you have to do. It's not a time limit. It's not an age thing. It's, are you able to fulfill the rights of marriage and that responsibility? And marriage is going to change you. Before marriage, you are a certain person. After marriage, because you go through those challenges, marriage molds you in a certain way and makes you grow. Okay, so therefore, it's an institution that nurtures you. You are not the same person now that you will be after marriage. And even if you didn't get married, 5 years down the road, you're not going to be the same person. Any of you. 10 years down the road, you're not going to be the same person. Any of you. So this whole idea is not Islamic. It's not Islamic. Sisters, the Prophet ﷺ said to you and to your guardians, your fathers, إِذَا جَاءَكُم مَّن تَرْضَوْنَ دِينَهُ وَخُلُقَهُ فَزَوِّجُوهُ. The Prophet ﷺ said 2 things. If a man comes and proposes to your daughter, to one of the women folk that you are in charge of, you are the mahram for, you are the wali for, and you are pleased with his religiosity and his character, and you see those 3 qualities in him: financially responsible, kind, generous, فَزَوِّجُوهُ, then facilitate that marriage. And if you don't do so, Prophet ﷺ said, there's going to be great corruption in the world. That's what we're seeing right now. Okay? It's not complicated. It's actually quite simple. Right, so was it a good question? Idris, was it a good question?
I think it was.
No, it wasn't. But it was good in one sense that it showed the Western indoctrination that has filtered itself through to all of us without detection. The only way you can detect these things is to be anchored in that which is perfect, the Sharia. Okay, and that takes experience, time, and a lot of research, and a lot of learning. Okay, so we are limited. We are human beings. We are very limited. Right? It's not as the West paint it, we are some great super manifestation in the creation. It's not us. Right, the brother right at the back there.
Like that, at least this much. I'll give practice of it, with them guys of the males month. Leather, but
Yeah, he would deem the khuluq, because khuluq, in terms of character, that is also part of culture. So there's an incompatibility because the nuances in their culture are very different to the culture of the other community, the Bengali community, the Asian community in general. So there's going to be a clash here. So they probably won't be able to work it out, or it creates more difficulty. And then dealing with the 3rd generation, 2nd generation, or 1st generation, there's other complexities there. So it just makes things more difficult. Not saying that it's always bad, it's always going to turn out bad, but it requires much more patience, tolerance on both, not only the couple, but also the families as well. And unfortunately, families, especially in our day and age, they're not very tolerant anymore. They're not very culturally savvy. And people are very much, if it's not my way, everything has to come to an end. Okay? People have become like that. Yalla. One from the sisters. Are you guys waiting for your private time? Yes? No? Yep. Sister there.
Which one? It's here. Just striking the match.
Right, this is a good one, and always asked by sisters, right? Say if the father is not fulfilling his responsibility in terms of marriage, looking out for the interests of his daughter, choosing the right thing, considering the right type of proposals, etc., does he still have that right? Yes, unless he dies. But if the father is oppressing the daughter and the daughter feels that way, Islamically, what does she have to do? She has to go to the Islamic judge and put her case forward and say, you know what, my father has done this, 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 this. This shows that he's not considering the real responsibility that Allah has placed upon his shoulders. So take it away from him and change it to someone else. Okay. We would discuss that with her. Okay, we'd go through that discussion, have a look at what she's saying. If it has merit, the next step would be to engage her father. So she would have to be ready for us to send an official letter to her father saying that she has come to us as an Islamic court and we want to speak to him about this issue. You can bet he's not going to be happy. Okay? So is she ready to go through that? If she's not, then she's not ready to go through that kind of marriage. If she is ready for that and she really feels it's oppressive, then we'll engage the father and see what we can do and try to get him on board and see the reality and judge whether he's being oppressive or not. But until she has a fatwa, not a fatwa rather, a judgment, a qada, a judgment in front of an Islamic judge, her father has his right and she cannot go and marry without his consent. When she gets a judgment ruling of her particular scenario, then the judgment will give her authority to marry a particular person, even if the father disapproves. And that's rare, but does happen. Normally, it's young people don't understand that the thinking of the father, and there are issues. And sometimes you get sisters who are very young, thinking that they need to marry this guy who's 10 years, 15 years older than them. And the father said no, quite rightly. And they don't know that that is going to be really bad for them. Okay, so it depends on the nuances of the particular scenario, but she has to go through that process. Raise it to an Islamic Sharia council, a reputable one. They look at it, they engage the father. There's several meetings, it's a process. Yeah, and then the Islamic court gives a ruling. That's how it works.
There's one that sisters want apparently on Twitter.
Yep, go on.
It is, as a person who is not very involved in ISocs, how can you go about finding a potential candidate to begin with? Consider if your parents don't know the type of person you want to marry.
Oh, this is a common one. Right, so get to know senior Muslim people in the community. How do you do that? You help them out. Get involved in the mosque. Get involved in Muslim charities. Get involved in Muslim organizations. If you're not rubbing shoulders with senior people in the community, you're going to find getting married very difficult. Okay? Because who knows who's looking to get married and has access to families? Senior people, not young people. People your age don't have access to that. Yani I deal with brothers, sisters, whole families. I know who's looking to get married. I help people get married because I'm of that age, known in the community. I rub shoulders with families, deal with their issues, the rest of it. Young people don't do that. You'll never have access to that. So, you need access to senior people in the community. How do you get access to them? Go and help them out. Go and rub shoulders with them. Okay, go and serve the community where they are running those projects. Get to know them. Then they will help you out in these things because they will see a good young person who needs to get married, and they will say, you know what, you're looking to get married? Just like the Prophet used to do. I know someone who's looking, might be right for you. Go and check this out. That's the way it works. Right, and in current times, you might go down the Muslim website route. Yeah, but there be extra careful because that's a right Pandora's box. Because you don't know who's behind that screen. Might be useful in some cases, but you have to do even more due diligence and investigation in those types of issues. So it's a possibility, it's an avenue, but has more problems with it, so be even more careful. Right, one from the brothers. Brother right there. Yep.
If you choose to get involved in the agency of get to know the others and stuff, with the intent of getting married, is that problematic?
No. It's part and parcel of life, yakhi. Right? Do it. You know when you do good deeds, you can have multiple intentions. And that doesn't decrease your reward, it increases your reward. So this is part of that. Getting married, that is great reward. Great reward. And it's not only for you, it's for the community. So you're not doing anything wrong, you're doing something good. And you're helping out in the Muslim projects, you're putting your effort in there, and you're getting to mix and network with these people who have access to people that might be right for you to get married to. Nothing harmful, it's all good. Yeah? Okay, anything from the sisters?
Yeah.
Sisters, anything from you?
On the mentimeter.
Tayyib, go on.
If a sister is interested in a man, how does she go about speaking to him if she's very shy? If she is very shy.
That's good. That's commendable. As we said earlier, she doesn't go direct through somebody. Find out if he's interested. If he's interested, then it goes through your families. Shyness only breeds good. Prophet ﷺ said it very, very clearly. Al-haya kulluhu khayr. Okay? Modesty, shyness, bashfulness, every part of it is good. There's no part of it that is bad. So explicit statement from the Prophet ﷺ. That is actually going to aid your marriage and will make you appear to the brother more beautiful. Okay, so don't belittle it. Use it to your advantage. Get someone to find out if he's interested. If he's interested, then pass that message on that you're interested through someone. That's perfectly fine. This is exactly what our mother Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha, she did. And then the families got involved and the Prophet ﷺ was married. And in that marriage, unlike all the other marriages of the Prophet ﷺ, he never married anyone while he was married to Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha.
Yes.
Okay? All the other wives were married to him while he had other wives as well. She was the exception. Okay? So, that's the way to go.
Just real quick, I don't want to open a can of worms here, but...
You don't, that's what makes it interesting.
Wow.
Yalla, go on. Let's
So-
see what kind of worms you have.
So, if you guys...
Right, now everyone's quiet. Yeah, shh. Right, can of worms. Yeah, yalla, let's see.
A lot of people ask the ISoc for kind of matchmaking services. We can't provide this, unfortunately. But as Sheikh said, there's a route to just ask if they're interested. That route is through the ISoc, inshallah, rather than going to them directly. So if you have a sister or a brother, either side, you would go through us heads, and likewise on his side, on me and Zainab, inshallah.
Are you part of the ISoc? Yeah? Okay, good. Right. So, her mum is part of a system that I help out in, I supervise. So, first thing I would say to you, I'm going to send Idris a marriage course. Okay, I'm going to send a marriage course that's going to take place soon. Can't remember the dates or anything. So I'll send it to him via message. The first thing I would say, if you're serious about getting married, go and attend that course. Because, a lot of damage has been done to you guys. You don't realize it, but a lot of damage has been done. You need to undo that damage and you need to upskill, because right now, because of the internet and social media and the rest of it, you've been deprived of key skills when it comes to socializing and just being with people. All of that needs to be undone, and you need to be upskilled. So what I would say to you, if you're serious about marriage, especially you brothers, sisters go to the marriage courses and skill up and the rest of it, and they read. Brothers don't. Okay? It's not the norm for brothers. But you guys need to do this. So if you're serious about it, go do the course. The Islamic Council course in marriage, it's the marital mastery course. It's going to be conducted soon again, right? We've done it several times. Go through that, very practical. Not, you have lots of different scenarios that you have to work through and figure things out, and then you get all of that. But go and do that first. If you're serious about it and you've done that course, then get in touch with the ISoc, say I'm looking to get married, and her mum is involved in that project that we kind of help people get married. And then if you've done that course, then we will definitely take you seriously and maybe put you on the database and help you out, okay? But I will not put anyone on that database from ISocs who has not done those courses, okay? I say that because if you haven't, you're not actually serious, you're not upskilling. And brothers, just as a side note, while you're studying, upskill yourselves, take courses in interpersonal skills, take courses in leadership skills, okay? Islamic marriage courses, Islamic parenting courses. Do things like this while you're in the education mode. This is preparation for life. Sisters are going to do that anyway, right? Nurturing is part of their nature. They go to these types of courses anyway. When they get married, they have the impetus and the zeal to do these courses in preparation. They read this kind of stuff anyway. Brothers, you need to upskill in these issues as well. Okay, so that's another piece of advice. The more you've done, the better you will be in dealing with marriage and the challenges that come with it. Right. Okay. Yalla. What's next?
It's great. Adam.
Yep.
I was carrying the marriage. Oh, right. Okay, go ahead.
Right, okay, if you're from a very stable family, you know, mother and father always been together, you're from a big family, extended family involved, everything like that, then you need someone similar to you, okay? Marrying someone who's from a broken family and has very little family is not going to work properly because the way they are is very different to the way you are. So if there's huge disalignment in the upbringing and the family structures, these are all red flags. Right, other red flags are if the person is very concerned with themselves, with their self, very self-centered, doesn't consider other people, showing a lack of empathy, yeah, especially important for sisters. Sister, like the other day, a sister asked me about, with the current agendas and narratives that are going, how can you identify an abuser? Yeah, that's the way she phrased it. Okay, because, the agenda right now is all men are what? Yeah, right. So this is the current push. This is not the case. That's the Western baggage. Okay, and that's what the West did to women. And they're still doing it to women. That's not us. That's not Muslims. We never had this problem between men and women. We never did. That's the colonial baggage that we've now bought into. That's not us. We never had this war between men and women. Never existed in Islam. Because Muslim men were not the ones who gave the rights to the Muslim woman. Nor were the women the ones who gave the rights to Muslim men. It was Allah who gave us all the rights that we needed and that we deserved. And Allah is perfect and objective. So therefore, there's no war between Muslim men and women. Allah described the nature of this relationship between Muslim men and women as in Surah At-Tawbah, وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ. Muslim men and women are friends of one another, they support one another, they help one another, they complete one another. This is how it's always been in Islam. We're not meant to be at each other's throats. That's not our baggage. That's a Western baggage. They went from one extreme to another extreme. That's never been the Muslim ethos or the Muslim way. It's not us. So, answering your question, look for similarity and alignment in family structures. That means family being together, whole, stable, similar to yours. If you're from a broken family, someone who's also from a broken family, you understand what they've been through, you have similarity, there's alignment there. Don't have completely disalignment. Then, culturally, value systems, where are they coming from? If there's alignment there, it makes it easier for you to get on. Right, education levels, alignment in that makes it easier to get on. And you should, as a man, have a higher level than your wife. Otherwise, she's going to look down on you and not feel fulfilled because she wants that leadership from a husband. So these types of things in general, yeah. But empathy, because this is something that is coming about because of the nature of society now. There's a push on this individualism and being self-centered that's being pushed. You need to look for that. And you'll have to move it outside of, those formal meetings. In those formal meetings, your family is looking at how does she behave? How does he behave? Does he think or does she think about herself? Or does she think about or he think about other people in the room? That shows people have empathy. If a person is devoid of empathy, that's a problem. If you don't think about others, Islamically that's a problem, and in your character it's a problem. People who turn out to be, turn out to harm others, they're the ones who are self-centered, who think about themselves before everyone else. So if you can look at characteristics and pick that out, do they serve others? Do they think about others? Do they make sure everyone's okay? Those are good signs. If they're looking after themselves, they're making sure everything's taken care of for them only and not others, that's a sign of a problem. Okay? Right. Okay. Anything from the sisters?
How long do you want to go for?
And when I come to these things, I'm here for you guys. You have questions, I'm here to answer them. I don't have to rush. I know you guys have been going for a long time. It's up to you. If you want to leave, you can leave. When the questions run out, done. Yeah, but I'm fine. I can keep going. Yeah. Anything from the sisters? We've got two brothers there.
Look at this.
Okay, brother here. Yeah.
It's funny that house. Same time in Mars.
Right, someone from a stable family marrying someone from an unstable family. See, I'm trying to avoid using loaded words. Yeah, and one of the loaded words that's flying around in the narratives of today is trauma. Okay, so this is one of the loaded words. Right, every human being goes through challenges, but every human being is responsible for their actions. Okay, yes, you have certain things that happen to you in life, and you have to just deal with it. There's a right way of dealing with things, and there's a wrong way of dealing with things. Islam teaches you the right way to deal with the most horrendous of challenges and problems. Look at our brothers and sisters in Gaza. All of this is happening to them. Genocide has been perpetrated against them. Yet they praise Allah, they're closer to Allah than anyone else, and they're still smiling. Okay? Because of the strength of Iman, they know this life and everything in it is exactly that, a test. Right, so certain things in your life, if they have a dramatic effect on you and you didn't cope with them well, they have lasting effects because you didn't follow the right response. Okay, so one of those things that has a dramatic effect on children is divorce. Okay, and especially if it's an ugly divorce. And unfortunately, that's quite common now. So a child who's gone through that has certain baggage. And that can be, that can turn or show itself into a very clingy nature, sometimes outbursts of aggression, anger, things like that. So this type of thing, some severe challenges can sometimes leave lasting effects which are deep down embedded in that person because they haven't processed and dealt with those things properly. Can a person work through it? Yes, they can, but it's more difficult. Okay? And most people don't go through a tarbiyah program to nurture them out of that type of behavior, out of holding those grudges and animosity, which then materializes in very negative ways. That's all it is. Yeah. Someone who goes through those things and then goes through a whole tarbiyah system program and develops themselves and upskills themselves and deals with it, they can come out of all of that. Because if their focus becomes, right, Allah tells us this is the way we're meant to behave. Think right about this thing. This is what Allah wanted for me, to develop me, and therefore actually in it and going through it was good. The way I'm meant to deal with it is to praise Allah, to draw closer to Allah, to accept it and deal with it Islamically and abide by the rulings in Islam. Someone who does that, and that's their paradigm, then those things won't affect them much at all. Now that's rare in these days. Okay. Right.
Okay.
One from the sisters, if there is.
Just give me 1 second. I'm gonna say that the event can finish. The event can officially finish. Are you guys like tired? Do you still want to keep going? Hands up if you want to keep going, inshallah.
And they're gonna
Okay.
they're gonna vote with their feet. If they want to leave, they can leave.
طيب.
Yeah, some have left already. They want to ask, they can ask.
Okay.
Right. Yalla. Next. There's still questions coming up on your thing.
Yeah, this is the WhatsApp. The questions, there's like 100 questions on it. I'm going to be honest, like there's a lot of questions.
You need a way of maybe use ChatGPT to summarize and collect questions and whatever. Yeah. Why are you laughing at it? It's something it can do. It's a mundane task, reading through everything. It can do that quickly. Yalla, go on. Right, any nitty-gritty... Sisters, you haven't asked the nitty-gritty questions that you want to ask. You haven't asked. I can tell you what those questions are. Yep, go on.
Sure, he likes to say why.
There you go, there's one. Right, this is typical question that the sisters ask. Right, sisters, let me tell you. Right, out of the percentage of men, Muslim men, right, how many as a percentage take second wives in reality? Let's say in London. What percent? Let's say in London. Yeah, we're in London. Let's go as a demographic. What percentage? Sister thinks 5%. No way. No way. 2%. No way. Right, if you actually do the stats, it's not even 1%. Okay? Most Muslim men, especially in cosmopolitan cities, do not take a second wife because, frankly, it's too expensive. Okay? Right, practicalities of it. Right. Some men do, very rare. Now, what sisters are doing is they get hung up on this issue and they say, you know what, in my marriage survey thing, my filter, before we get to a marriage meeting, right, I'm going to put in there, would you consider taking a second wife? And if he says, yes, that's it, he's off the list, I'm not going to consider him. Right, that's doing detriment to yourself. Because most men are not going to do it anyway. Every man is wired, created by Allah, to actually think, if I was able to, I would. Every man. Doesn't mean that he doesn't love his wife, but this is the way Allah created men. But will most men do it? No. 1% will do it. Okay. So, if you put that in, and anyone who says, yes, I may think about it, and then you're going to strike them off, you're going to minimize, and you're potentially going to turn away good people to marry. So what I would say to you is, put that in the hands of Allah. Don't even ask about it, because it's not something real. Okay? Unless the only exception is, say if his father did it. Okay? If his father did so, then you have a right to ask about it. Then it's more of a reality. If his father didn't do so, don't even bother entertaining that discussion. Take him on his merit. Ask about all the other things. Right, that was one common question. one of the nitty-gritty questions. You haven't asked sisters about the other ones, and there's quite a few of them. If you don't ask, I'm not gonna open it. Okay, brothers, anything else? Any details? Right, the brother there at the back, yeah?
I've got 2 questions. First of all, but the things about the way you said what's going on, not by
You're my dear man.
that says man you said like deciding that could give mutual
Yeah, neutral third party.
together. One was called up when I actually that's what I sure. So the bit how did they go about that was this big tuning up and said I said you know right. Doing this was like if I don't if they are to step up this line up to have got this social group but
Discussion directly with the person you're thinking of proposing to?
the person
The third party. Yeah? Any formal interaction. Maybe you write them an email formally. Any interactions between men and women who are non-mahrams, yeah, is meant to be formal in Islam. You get to the point, what needs to be done, the work issue, whatever it is, it's not meant to be overly friendly, pleasantries, nice politeness, and formality. That is the interaction between men and women in Islam. Okay, you keep to that, so you just write an email to that person, or you formally state it, you know what, you approach it in a sensitive way. Maybe if you have to speak to the person, and you don't have the email, you can't write it formally, you would say to them, you know what, I know this is a sensitive issue, I'm sorry I'm putting you in this situation, but I would like it if you can help out. I want to find out if such and such sister is interested in me in terms of marriage. Okay? So use the right polite words to show it's a sensitive issue, show that you're modest, show that you have manners, and done, finished, move on. Okay?
check the second was
But obviously that's not in private, that is in public, yeah?
that's right. This is of the East about the parish. The man the 2000 book after we have 7 verse 2 video I just get here.
Right, marriage is not what is termed now creating a nuclear family. You are part of a huge family. You are part of a huge ummah. Never neglect that. Your direct family, your blood family, and your extended relatives, depending on how often you see them and engage with them, are all part and parcel of what we term in the business world as stakeholders in the marriage. Okay, so if they are stakeholders in it, they need to have a certain role in choosing and having an opinion in terms of who you marry. So the greatest stakeholders are your parents and your siblings. And then you have certain uncles and aunts that are really close to you. They should be engaged as well. They have life experience. They have knowledge of you and the way you are, your disposition, etc. Your likes and dislikes and your cultural baggage and the rest of it. Right, so use their experience and their expertise in you and to analyze the other side and if there is alignment or not. You won't have complete alignment even with your parents. Your parents think differently to you, but they're coming from a good place. Understand that they understand you. Use that skill that they have and their ability to assess objectively the other side, because you're part of, this is going to happen to you. You're going to get married. You are emotionally compromised. You can't think straight. You can't make straight decisions in that scenario. So don't think you can. You need their help. You need their guidance. You need their expertise. Use it. And you know, in life, you know, the greatest success stories are not the most intelligent people. They are not the brainiest and the ones who can memorize the most. There are people who can pull together the expertise of others and use it. That's real maturity. Being able to take the expertise of others, bring it together, and formulate the best decisions possible. That's real maturity. Okay? And that is what the Prophet ﷺ was ordered with. Yeah? وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ. Consult them in the decisions, and when you agree on something and you decide to go with that decision, then go for it and put your tawakkul, your reliance in Allah. That's the prophetic method that Allah enshrined in the Quran. Okay, yallah. Next, anything from the sisters?
There's one recurring on the Mentimeter a lot.
Yep.
Is it normal to discuss intimacy before marriage?
Never. Brothers. Okay, and this is something that is going to completely annoy the other side and make them think of you in a very bad way. And we'll end that proposal very quickly. You don't talk about intimacy in the proposal ever at all. It's not done, it's wrong. Okay? You don't do it. I know brothers, and I don't know what they were thinking of. They do this, and then everything comes to an end. The father, he hears about it. You what? He must get rid of him. End of that proposal. Simple. End of story. Never do you ask about things like that. That's after marriage. Okay? Right, and we did a course on intimacy for married people in the Islamic Council. Okay, and I do suggest when you actually get married, after you've got married, you do the course. Because there's lots of things, the Islamic rulings, you have no clue about. The practicalities of it, you have no clue about. So, once you've got married, then it's time to open yourself up to that knowledge. Not before. Either when you're about to get married, it's all done, it's all fixed, and you're preparing yourself for the marriage event itself. At that point, you might do such a course. But before that, you have no business about learning about those things. Okay? And you never talk about those things during the pre-marriage meetings and the rest of it. Never. Okay. Which brother should we... All of those three have had a question before. Anyone who hasn't had a question? طيب, خلاص. Why you... Yeah, the brother right at the back there, the green... I use the word aligned.
Yeah, like pretty. But in someone's a young person this photo, wouldn't be able to survive with that from as their father had been right.
No one said you have to provide for your wife like her father provided for her. No one said that. And the father is going to look at you and he's not going to be assessing that. And some fathers will because they're very materialistic in their outlook. Some fathers do. But other fathers realize that, you know what, I just need someone good, responsible, kind, generous. Okay, and he has that potential. And he's using it in the right way. So it's not always the case. As long as he sees that, okay, he'll be happy. As I said, human beings are difficult. Human beings are different. You have the more materialistic ones who would look like that, and their daughters may need that. They can't do with less. So he's going to take that into consideration. But if his daughter is not that extravagant in her needs and can make do with less, etc., then he doesn't need to think like that. So it's not flat out, you need to look after her like the father looked after her. Yeah? So the Prophet ﷺ said, find the woman who will be content with little. If you do, your life becomes much easier. Okay? And money, sisters, it's not what's going to make you happy. Okay? A husband who's poor but is very kind and generous to you and is good to you, that you're going to live a blissful life. A husband who has all the money in the world but is stingy, doesn't want to spend on you, doesn't want to be generous, you're going to hate him. And we have cases like this, and the woman says, my husband has all the money in the world, but he's so stingy about anything. Because he counts every penny. Not the kind of husband you want. Okay? Right.
You want to give him back? We lost the fire tips. Did you?
Go.
You want to give him back? Give him back. Got them, they drag it back.
No. It's quicker to go by train.
Wait, that's right.
Yeah,
One question.
but he wants to drive me back so he can get one-to-one. And I want to go by train so I can read my Quran and do my own thing.
Play it.
So,
Okay,
Yeah.
so question:
Inshallah.
Is it permissible to ask someone about the past? So like bringing up past.
This is one of the key questions. Why didn't you guys ask this? Or did you ask it? Yeah, maybe. Right. Do you ask about a person's past in that marriage checklist? And in today's day and age, I do actually suggest you have certain filter questions that you ask, which are done as like a survey type thing before you consider having a meeting with that person. Okay? Certain questions you would ask, deal breakers, things that if this is not this way or that way, then I wouldn't even consider the person. But you can have those kinds of things, family makeup, stability, vision, certain basics of religiosity, chastity, etc. You can ask those types of questions. And one of those types of questions might be, and sisters might ask this kind of question, because unfortunately this has detrimental effects on a marriage. If you might have on that kind of questionnaire, are you addicted to pornography? Yeah, this is a real issue. Several cases we have to deal with, unfortunately, because of something like this, the marriage breaks down and it doesn't really get off the ground, etc. So something like that. It's not asking about the details of it, asking in a general way, do you have addictions? And something like that specifically. Okay, so that's become a problem, and obviously you wouldn't consider someone that breaks the issue of chastity. Someone who answers no to that, you wouldn't go in any further depth about that issue. But make sure they're not addicted to something like that. Brothers, for instance, are the sisters, you need to find out, do they have an aversion to housework and things like that? Because unfortunately now, there's a trend that's growing that a laziness and an expectation that the woman doesn't have to play a role in the house. And any man is not going to accept that, because that is part and parcel of married life. Most of the house chores, etc., the responsibility is going to fall onto the wife. Okay, and if the wife works because of need, and it should be minimal as possible so she can focus on bigger things in life than the career and the rest of it, then certain sacrifices have to be made by both sides, and the woman will definitely be asked to contribute to the household if she's going to work. Because that money, her working is, and this is not understood by sisters many a time, he is giving up some of his right when he allows his wife to work. And the only reason a man would want his wife to work is because the cost of living is so high. Otherwise, why would he want her to take her attention from the main objective in life for them both, which is the home, the marriage, the children when they come, etc.? He wouldn't. But because of the cost of living, it's happening. Okay? But brothers, if you're going to let your wife work and you're going to make her contribute, understand that you need to be a bit more flexible in the responsibilities that she has towards the house and responsibilities towards you. So you need to kind of agree these things before they happen and not after they happen. So you have different expectations and then it ends in a mess. No. Agree these things and expectations before things happen. Okay? Right. Yep. These two are going to ask about pre-marriage meetings and things like that. You sure, yeah? All right, go and ask your question, and then I'll see if I'm going to answer it.
the same very sudden sign of all time. So that can actually really, there's not a very called.
Yeah, you're marrying into the family.
No, sorry, you marry the family.
Yeah, you're marrying the family because she's a product of the family.
Yeah, not the other way around.
Yeah, she is a product and he is a product of the family. How did he become who he was? The Prophet ﷺ said, يعني كل مولود يولد على الفطرة ثم أبواه يهودانه أو ينصرانه أو يمجسانه. Yeah? The influence of the parents changes the fitrah of that child. The child was born inclining to all truth, all goodness, all benefit. Then they are impacted by their environment, first and foremost their parents. And that turns them in certain aspects away from that natural inclination and molds them in a particular way. So they're a product of the family. And at the same time, when you marry that person, you're going to have to interact with that family. It's not just marrying the person. All of these social events and things that happen, you have to deal with their parents a lot. And you're going to deal with their siblings and the extended family from time to time, etc. So it's less for the brothers. Yeah, your interaction with the in-laws is less for brothers, much more for sisters. But it's all part and parcel of marriage. So if you go in thinking it's about me and her, you're setting yourself up for failure. And you're setting yourself up to enter into wars with your spouse because you didn't expect to have to interact with her family so much. And when she is going to expect that from you, and that it can be a cause of great conflicts. And for him, he goes into a marriage expecting that his wife's going to interact with her family and get on with them and do things for them, and then she turns around and says, no, I married you, I didn't marry your family. Guess what? You did, actually. Go in with the right expectation. This is Islam. Okay? Right. Brother in the red.
What would be the best way to work on the nikah dispute?
Right, nikah-wise, sisters, actually, you need to understand this even more than the brothers. Right. A nikah is something public, done officially. Family are involved. Okay? Marriages that don't have this ceremony, okay, this official nature to it, these are fake. And they are easy come, easy go. Whenever they happen behind closed doors, like for instance, and this has happened, many scenarios, unfortunately, the brother comes across as so pious and so knowledgeable, etc., and the sister goes without her parents to some supposed mosque. She goes upstairs, a piece of paper is handed to her, she signs the paper, and then he comes along and says, we're married now. Huh? Excuse me? What kind of marriage was that? Yeah, everything else happened, there was an imam there, blah, blah, blah. She didn't see nothing. No one took her official consent. The imam didn't come and take her consent. These are all huge red flags. You do this, I guarantee you're going to get abused. And then you're going to want out of that marriage, and it's going to be very difficult for you. These are the pieces that we have to pick up, and it's a nightmare. Okay? It's a nightmare. And you might get stuck in that marriage for 2 years where there's no actual marriage, and you can't get out of that marriage. That's not a marriage. A marriage, in Islam, it's a big event. Everyone knows about it. Families are present. There's an imam there. There are lots of witnesses. It's a big deal. That's a marriage. Anything that doesn't fit that picture is dodgy. Anything that doesn't fit that picture is dodgy. You get involved in dodgy things, you have dodgy outcomes. Don't be that one. Okay. Right, so technically they say in the books of fiqh, you need the wali, the bride, the groom, 2 Muslim male witnesses. Okay. Right. Technically. But technically doesn't work. Right? The spirit of it is an announcement to the world that this relationship is a halal relationship and not a haram relationship. It's not undercover, it's not no secret thing. It's a public announcement of the two families coming together. If it doesn't fit the spirit, it's not really a marriage. Okay, so that's the answer to that one. Let's have this brother here who wasn't asked.
Suppose somebody comes from a religious family background. How do they find somebody religious putting burdens?
Say that again.
So suppose somebody comes from a religious family background. How do they find somebody religious wants to bury it?
Yeah, many people are from the same background. There's brothers and sisters in the same boat. Find someone like that. It's easy. Okay? Many young people have come back to their deen and religiosity, and their families are very different. Okay? So, yani, it's not a big deal. It's normal. Okay, last couple of questions, as most people are voting with their feet, so most people have become tired. Yeah, you young people got no stamina. Yeah, I could keep going, but you young people, no stamina anymore. That's a challenge. Yalla.
All of us have his hand up like.
Yeah, sister first. Yep. Right. Disabilities, make them known from the outset, even before meeting, because it's worse if you have the meeting, then you say it, then there's complete rejection straight away. Just waste your time, doesn't it? So get those kind of things out of the way on paper, so everyone's clear. So if they come for the meeting, it's not a waste of time. Yeah. So these types of things, get them out of the way in the beginning. Yeah. And there's loads of people who have issues. So, right, you might have a disability. There's many people out there, brothers who have disabilities, loads of sisters who have disabilities. Khalas, that's life. You need to persist in your search. Never give in to the whispers of shaitan who says to you, oh, you're never going to get married. Why are you even bothering? No. Okay? Don't allow that to fester in you. And when one of your friends gets into that mode, it's your responsibility as a good friend, a good brother and sister to that person, to give them a good swift kick. Yeah? And tell them to knock that out of their minds and hearts. Okay? Right. Brother right at the back there. Yeah.
Especially the one to why. It's rich before mom. Easy pro.
No, a wife. Islamically, wife. See the cultural baggage that you've picked up? And this is part of it. Words are very powerful. Partner, no. Husband and wife. Husband and wife. And just look what happens to your mind and heart. When you say husband, when you say have wife, your heart pictures something. When you say partner, your heart pictures something. When you say partner, really, you've gone down the business materialistic vision. When you say husband and wife, there's a traditional value system that comes with those words. It's very much intended. Words are very powerful. You do not actually live in the real world. You live in the reality that you have framed with the words that you use. Okay? So that's why I'm very particular about certain words. Right. Wife.
Yes. I just want to say one that they build very good. So it's,
Yeah, right. So you can use that. Spouse. Zoj. Okay? So it translates to spouse. Okay. So everyone wants an attractive spouse. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's easy for the sister to possess the physical attraction of their dad or the spouse. Well, then it's really hard. If you're going for a mother's spoon, it's really hard for the dad that says, well,
Is it? Really? Okay, right. So let me give you, your question is very clear. How do you assess it? She's wearing hijab. How do I know, and is she really pretty or not? Does she tick the box or not? Okay, so the first meeting, you're going to see her in hijab, right? And she might even wear niqab. Okay, first meeting, and then if she wears niqab, you're going to ask to see her face in the first meeting. Normal. Right, there you'll have an indication of beauty. You'll have your sisters, your mum, etc. Check her out properly for you. they would say, yani, she is right for you, she is attractive, she's good looking, whatever. That's one side of it. Then, if it has potential, you have a second meeting, maybe even a third meeting, because that's how it works. In the third meeting, if you're still unsure and you want to know for sure, then you'll send a message before the third meeting and you say, you know what, sister, would it be possible for me to see you without your hijab on, in your normal clothes? Allowed. This is marriage. Sisters, you're going to find it uncomfortable. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but this is marriage. It's not the normal scenario. The Sharia is more flexible here. You're about to get married. Third meeting. This is either it's going to go forward or it's not going to go forward. A brother asks to see you like that, then you've got two options here. Never say no to this. Either you do so and you allow him to see you in your normal clothes for a short period of time, or you do it through a photo. Yeah, your mum passes a photo to his mum. He looks at it. His mum takes it back, gives it to your mum, returns it to you. One of these two things should happen. It's normal. It's not a big deal. Yes, it's uncomfortable. So it should be. But this is not any normal interaction. This is marriage. And you're going to see each other if you get married, and fully. So there's no aura between husband and wife. So, and this is part and parcel of growing up. Okay? So this is how it works. But don't ask to do that until around the third meeting. Okay, brothers? Don't try to push that, because you will come across as some dodgy person. Yeah? Okay, right. Okay, let's call it a night there. Anyone who wants to catch me, I'm still here, but as an open thing, we'll stop there, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairah. May Allah bless you all with righteous spouses and give you really good, blissful marriages. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
I just like one question. So I know you said get married as soon as you're ready.
As soon as you can.
As soon as you can. But around what age would you recommend? So
How old are you?
I'm 19.
Get married. Get married. Get your parents on board. Get married ASAP.